My name is Pranav Sharma and my number is CB.SC.U4CSE23611, and today I will be presenting my case study on topic Visualizing Terrorism and Political Violence Through Data. For this project, I worked with three datasets: GTD, GED, GED231 and GDELT dataset. Now, for first question, how do total deaths from terrorism compare to deaths from political violence over time by country? For this question, I first grouped the GTD dataset by country and decade, summing the total number of deaths from terrorism. I repeated the same step for GED dataset to get total deaths from political violence. Then I merged with result with a word shapefile using GeoPandas so that every country could be plotted on a global map. Next, I created a choropleth maps. The red terrorism maps show clusters in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and Nigeria. In India, terrorism deaths rose in the 1980s due to Punjab insurgency and again after 1990s in Jammu and Kashmir. Political violence deaths in blue are more widespread, with large hotspots in Sudan, DR Congo, Afghanistan, and Iraq. Over time, terrorism spikes in Middle East, South Asia, while political violence spreads consistently across Africa. This comparison shows that terrorism tends to be clustered in specific countries like India, Iraq, and Afghanistan, while political violence is broader and longer lasting, especially in Africa. Next, I wanted to look at how terrorism and conflict migrate between regions across decades. In this step, I grouped GTD terrorism incidents by decade and region. For example, South Asia, Middle East, Latin America, Africa. Then I did same grouping for GED conflict event. After that, I plotted stacked area plots where each region had a colored band and height of band showed the number of incidents in that region for the decade. In 1970s to 80s, Latin America dominates with groups like FARC in Colombia and Shining Path in Peru. In 1990s and 2000, terrorism shifts to South Asia with India, Pakistan and Afghanistan becoming hotspots. In 2010, it peaks in Middle East, especially in Iraq, Syria due to Al-Qaeda and ISL. For political violence, Africa and Middle East stay consistently high. Countries like Sudan, Somalia, and DR Congo remain hotspots decade after decade, especially Middle East, showing that there are persistent rather than migratory. So terrorism is mobile and migratory, moving from Latin America to South Asia to Middle East. Political violence, however, is deep-rooted and persistent, especially in Africa. After looking at regions, I wanted to study severity. How deadly is the average terrorist attack? I grouped the GTD dataset by year and calculated the average number of fatalities per incident. Then I plotted a line graph with year on x-axis and average fatalities on y-axis. I also used annotations to highlight important peaks like 1998. In most years, the average is low, around 1 to 3 deaths per incident. This reflects frequent small-scale attacks in countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan. But there are dramatic spikes. In 2001, because of 9/11, attacks in the United States of America, which killed nearly 3,000 people. That one event pushed the average fatalities per incident to record levels. Other spikes appear in Iraq 2007, Nigeria 2014 due to Al-Qaeda affiliates and Boko Haram. This shows that most attacks are low fatality, but rare catastrophic events dominate statistics and global perceptions. India, for example, has many incidents with few deaths, while single events like 9/11 shift the global averages dramatically. My fourth question asked, who are the main actors and how do they change over time? I filtered out incidents where the group name was unknown. Then I counted the number of attacks for each group. I selected the top 10 groups overall and plotted their activity in a stacked bar chart by decade, where each color represents a different group. In the 1980s to 90s, South Asian groups dominate. LTTE in Sri Lanka, Khalistani militants in India, and Maoist groups. In 1990s, FARC in Colombia and Shining Path in Peru were also very active. In 2000s, Islamist extremist groups dominate. Al-Qaeda peaks in 2000s. ISIL dominates the 2010, especially in Iraq and Syria. In India, groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Naxals Maoist appear consistently across decades. This shows that terrorism is not static. Globally, new groups rise as old ones fade, while in India, long-term groups persist because of unresolved political and social conflict. Finally, my last question explores the relationship between different forms of violence. Do regions really become peaceful when state-based wars end? Or does violence shift into terrorism and non-state conflict? Here I categorize GED events into state-based conflict. War, it means wars involving a government. Non-state conflict means without the government. Then I added GTD, terrorism incident, to the same timeline. I grouped everything by region and decade, calculated total events and created side-by-side bar charts. For each decade, we see 3 bar charts: state-based violence, non-state conflict events, terrorist incident. Middle East. In the 1980s, state-based wars like Iran-Iraq war dominate. By the 1990s, state-based wars decline. But in the 2000s to 2010, terrorism spikes dramatically with Al-Qaeda in the 2000s and ISIL in the 2010. Africa. After the decline of some state wars in countries like Sudan and Angola, non-state conflict and terrorism rise sharply. Groups like Boko Haram in Nigeria and Al-Shabaab in Somalia fill the vacuum. South Asia. In India and Pakistan, large-scale wars decline after 1971, but non-state conflict like Maoist insurgency and terrorism in Kashmir rise significantly. The pattern is clear. When state-based wars decline, violence does not always disappear. Instead, it often re-emerges in irregular forms through non-state conflicts and terrorism. This is seen in India, Africa, and especially in the Middle East. Now, final conclusion. To summarize the 5 questions, for first one, terrorism dates are clustered in hotspots like India, Iraq, Afghanistan, while political violence is broader and longer lasting in Africa. Terrorism is migratory, shifting across regions, while political violence is persistent. Third one, most terrorist attacks are low fatality, but rare catastrophic events dominate global averages, like in the year 1998. Now, fourth one, the main terrorist groups change over decades, but in India, some groups persist due to unresolved conflict. When state wars decline, terrorism and non-state conflict often rise, meaning peace between states doesn't always mean peace for societies. Overall, visualizing the data reveals patterns that raw numbers alone cannot show. It helps us understand that terrorism and political violence are deeply interconnected but behave in different ways across the time, space and actors. This is all my case study. Thank you.